Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome, everybody. We're back. We are back. Episode 17 of the Strat Talk. Thank you for joining us this Sunday with your host, myself, Adex, Leon, and Alex. Alex will be joining us shortly. In today's episode, we have Angie's Prerogative, educator and fellow the Strat Trader. She's here to discuss the advantages of the Strat for the beginner trader, as well as how she uses the Strat to trade common shares. This is going to be a great discussion, especially for those of you that are new to the strat. A lot of your questions will be answered in this episode. So, Angie, thank you so much for being here. For those of you that
Hey.
Thank you. For those of you that are new to the show, I am one of the admins of AdexTrades. I started trading before the pandemic started, and I've been utilizing the strat for 2 years. My goal as a leader of the group is teaching the strat to as many people as possible to help others become self-sufficient traders. I'll now hand it over to Leon so he can provide a brief introduction of himself as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leon. I've been trading for about 3 years now, and I'm strictly a day trader that primarily trades reversal setups combined with areas of liquidity.
Nice. Thank you. We did have Alex. He was going to be another speaker of the panel, but I think he's just getting situated. So once he joins, I will bring him on. I'll bring him up as well. All right. Now, so Angie, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. This is going to be episode 17 of the Strat Talk. For the listeners who don't know who you are, can you give us a little bit of background of yourself?
Well, my name is Angie and I go by Angie's Prerogative. And Angie's Prerogative is literally based off of the song, not the Britney Spears version, but the Bobby Brown's version. It's my prerogative. And it's been something that, kind of a self-development promise to myself. And I'm a mom of one. My favorite artist is Michael Jackson. I like going to concerts and I love the violin, although I cannot play it, so that's one of my things. I used to box, which is something that I would like to pick up as well. I have been learning to trade for like 5 years, and why I specifically say learning is because when you learn something, it's different than actually taking action on it or implementing. And I've been active for two, almost going three, and with the strat, that's like going over 1 year now. I just celebrated my 1 year in January, but from when I first started learning and implementing the strat. I'm a Jill of many trades and I master quite a few of them. I'm now an educator with AdexTrades. Thank you so much. And if I'm not doing any of these things, I like to just mind my business in general. So that's me.
That's beautiful. So beautiful. And congrats on being an educator for 8X Trades. We've loved your enthusiasm. We've loved everything that you've done so far for the server. We appreciate it, Angie. You're
Thank you
welcome. You're
too.
welcome. Actually, and I just wanted to piggyback off of one of your statements that you just said. You said that you've been learning how to
Mhm.
trade for about 5 years, but you just started to execute how to trade for about 2 or 3 years. Can you actually describe or let us know what you mean by that, and why is that actually important? Actually, being able to learn first, or actually learn how to trade first, rather than just going into it, putting your money on the line, and just going straight out the bat.
For me, it wasn't like an intentional type of thing where I said, oh, I want to learn first before I put money up. It was more kind of a mental block. Yes, what do you call that? Kind of fear too. So I'm a person that likes to learn new things, and my mom always, one quote of my mom that I grew up with, and she always used to say, if you need to do something, do it well, and if you cannot do it well, leave it for someone who can. But if you don't have the option to leave it to someone who can, then you need to learn to do it well and fast. So with that being said, sometimes that puts, kind of a pressure on, like I put that pressure on myself too, where I want it to be perfect, or I want to feel like I'm at a certain stage, or I feel like it's not ready. So for me, like learning, because I love that aspect of learning alone, it took me that long before I actually jumped in and actually started doing some of the stuff and implementing. But the good thing about that was it was that I accumulated so much knowledge, and all I now had to do was kind of put it to work or put it to test. So yeah, that's kind of that.
And when you first started out, did you start off originally trading the strat or learning, trying to trade the strat, or was it other methods? Like, what was the first thing you started to learn?
Mm, I started with regular technical analysis, so your RSI, your MACD, and your support and resistant zones, supply and demand. And then I've done that for like a year, 2 years. In between that, I tried different I've tried different other indicators like the Bollinger Bands, the price channels, EMAs and etc. And then I've also learned the 4 stages of price movement. So, from now, Gerald Peters with the Money Flow Gang. So that was another thing that I added to my arsenal as well. And then in January 2022, I started learning the strat. So at first, I was combining the strat with everything that I was using before. So I had like a whole intricate plan, and I had it all written down, and I had, okay, where am I getting in? So I was using the strat for my entries, but I was also paying attention to EMAs, and I was working that thing, right? So for me, me saying that now is kind of a reminder to say that people, you have to kind of, either you want to transition in or transition out of the strat, whichever way you choose to do that, you have to make it your plan, right? And don't mind anyone that says, oh, you shouldn't be using this. If it works for you, it works for you. Ideally, you do want to, grab the whole grasp of what the strat is, because it is a system in itself. But if you need to use, like, training wheels and EMA crossovers to help you see what it is that you need to see so that you can get going, then for me, you just do what you got to do, and mind your business while you do it.
Angie, I did want to mention that this is a family-friendly show, so we are going to have to beep out when you mentioned RSI and Bollinger Bands. Um, I wanted to ask you, when did you discover the strat, and what made you realize that the strat was your foundation to trading after going through the trial and errors of the previous systems?
So the funny thing is, when I was learning options, mainly with Shauna taught me. I think some of you guys know her from a few years ago during the pandemic. She actually, like, someone mentioned it and said, "Oh, have you learned the strat?" And she said, "Oh, Ray does it, but I don't understand the numbers." But it was just something, like a message that was thrown out, and I didn't really like research or act upon it. And then I started following Ray. Ray is the Strat Uchiha. And I started following him more. And at that time, I was in a Discord group where he still is in now as well. And he was utilizing that. And then I started seeing, like the strat pop up a little bit. I was like, okay, this may be something. And then I was like, 1, 2, 3, okay, this is easy. So then I started, binge watching Sarah the Strat Sniper. In that same January, and that's kind of how I figured it out, that this is something that I wanted. So I started with the strat has 3 universal truths, and I started by learning one first, and then I traded that and saw how that worked with the traditional way with the technical indicators. And then I realized, okay, let me take one of the indicators off. So the first thing that went was the MACD, and then I was like, okay, let me add the second one. And that kind of the first and the second one, because of the multiple time frames, they kind of went hand in hand. So they were almost introduced at the same time. But yeah, the second one was the full time frame continuity and really grasping what that was about. Because, before, people used to, like, when you back the question and say, oh, okay, what time frame are you looking at, or what time frame should I trade on? Some people just say, like, all of them. Yeah, all of them. But what does that mean, right? So it was only really until I started trading the strat that I fully started grasping, actually looking at as many time frames as possible and understanding what what that story is telling you. And then after that, I started adding the broad informations as the third option. And by that time, I removed most of the indicators that I had. And yeah, that's kind of how I transitioned into it and realized, okay, this is something that I could get into. And another thing too with that was when I was using the strat, or I'm still using the strat mainly for my entries and my exits, and comparing it to EMA crossovers or even the MACD crossovers, you could clearly see where the strat is giving you a way better entry and a way better exit as compared to the crossovers, whichever one you used. I was even using the moving average crossover with the RSI and the MACD, or just the simply the EMA 5 and 10, or even 8 and 21. I tried all of them, right? All the numbers. But still, there's no way that you can alter those numbers well enough for you to have a better entry than what you have with Strat. So that's one of the main things where I started clicking. I was like, okay, because I'm a swing trader and I started with penny stocks. So I was like, okay, if I'm getting a better entry, then the main thing for me to do is, okay, use the Strat as my entry points and my exits, but kind of use those indicators as a guide to help me, see it better if I wasn't able to see it. But because I learned, multiple different strategies, including the 4 stages of price movement by Gerald Peters, that's still teaching that as well. I was able to see, like consolidation or, distribution or, breakouts and etc. So that's how, I started seeing the things where, okay, yeah, this is definitely something that you should put first. And after that, anything else.
Thank you for that, Angie. Quick introduction for myself. My name is Alex Strat. I'm a educator and price action trader as well via the Strat over at the ADEX server. And I have a question for you. As a fellow Stratter, Angie, can you share with us some of the most important elements to consider while utilizing the Strat, those of which that have helped you reach outstanding consistency?
Um, Definitely multiple time frame analysis. That's for one. I keep adding new time frames because I see other people using other ones, but that's definitely and that's definitely the first one. By analyzing, okay, what is it doing on the year? What is price action doing on the 9 month? What is it doing on the 6 month? What is it doing on the quarter? What is it doing on the 2 months, the month, the 3 week, the 2 week, the week, the 4 day, the 5 day, the 3, 2, and 1? Because I'm mainly a swing trader, although in this market is a bit iffy, so I'm not going to lie. I have been taking a little bit more losses than I usually would compared to, let's say, last year or even the year before that. But that's, I mainly stay on the daily and mainly the 4 hour as well. So time frames are definitely number one. Once you understand that, then you being able to see number two would be the Browning formations. Because you could still have a, the combinations like 3-2-1, 2-2 reversal, and etc. will help you get an entry. But if you're not able to see what's actually happening, then those entries will not matter, because you may be able to take a 2-2 reversal in the middle of a Browning formation that was a TTO, and then you just go to the other side. And especially if you didn't have full time frame continuity, or maybe even conflict on the time frames, then that 2-2 reversal is just going to either wick against you or set up, for another 2-2 reversal back down, or in whatever direction that you didn't want it to go to, right? So that's definitely one of the main thing, the time frames, and then the Browning formation. So being able to see price taking out higher highs and lower lows, and then I would say the third, like the combinations with the entries, um, for me, in my opinion.
Cool. I couldn't agree more with you. Those burning informations, super important. The MTFA, super important. Now, I have a quick question. For those of you listening and those who have problems identifying these burning formations, this phenomenon that we know that exists within the strata, what advice
Mhm.
would you give them?
Um, So one, you have to see it as the shape of that you should have in mind is either the mouth of a crocodile or a megaphone. That's number one. So you should keep that shape in mind. Then second is for me, I actually just did a class yesterday in the group about this. And I start drawing my broadening formations from the higher time frames going down. And if I see any smaller ones, I will draw them depending on where I see prices going or where it could go potentially. So I think that when I see, questions about broadening formations, people ask, okay, which one should I draw them on? Like when I started out, I was drawing all of them. My chart was looking like like a whole spider web. They were going in all kinds of directions, and I couldn't even see what I drew anymore at some point. So then I started simplifying it for myself by drawing from, if I'm able to see a lower low, two candles with the lower low on, let's say, the year or the I prefer the starting from the quarter, to be honest, because that's when you're really able to see, some type of difference between the candles. So I will draw whichever one I'm seeing on the quarter, then I'll bump it down to the monthly, and I will draw whichever ones I'm seeing there. Then I'll bump it down to, I've now implemented the 3 week, so I'll see if I see any on the 3 week. And sometimes what you'll then start realizing is that the one that you drew on the 3 week is also one for the 2 week, and then you won't have to draw the one from the 2 week again. But then you know that, okay, this will be like a third week, a 3 weekly broadening formation. So once we take this out, then I'm looking to actually go into the monthly one instead of is it if it had like a weekly, a 2 weekly, and then the 3 weekly one. So that's how I like to analyze the broadening formations. And then number once you've drawn them, so from the quarter, monthly, 3 2, for me, if you're starting out, just draw quarter, monthly, 2 week, week, and then day. Because I'm assuming if you're starting out that you won't be starting out as a day trader, because I don't know how you would do that. But I mean, if even if you
Yeah,
do,
correct.
if you go lower than the day, then also draw them on the day, and then the 4 hour if you'd like to, or the 3.5 day, or the 3.5 hour, and then the hourly. For me, I don't go anything lower than the hour, to be honest, because I feel like that's clouding my judgment. And especially because even if I am a day trader, I don't scalp. So I would like to make as much, the best of the daily movement as much as I can. So me bumping down, let's say, to a 5 minute broadening formation won't make sense to me. So that's why I don't go lower than the hour. Sometimes I draw them on the 15 if I see something happening, then I'm like, okay, you have to pay attention to this level. But essentially, is you being able to see price making higher highs and lower lows, and it going into like up, down, higher, down, high, lower, up, higher, down, lower than it was before.
Cool. I've noticed here you're describing a top-down approach and how you can utilize this within the broadening formations. Can you perhaps shed some light as to how we can utilize the top-down approach with the MTFA, multiple time frame analysis, and how that could help us identify the TMG, the trigger machine gun?
So what with the top down approach, with the strat, you always mark your highs and your lows, whatever time frame you're on, your high, your lows, and your open. And reason why your open is important and why you should mark it, depending on what time frame is, what type of trader you are, but the general rule is mark all of them on all the time frames that you are looking at. And the reason why you have to mark your open is because that will now determine your time frame continuity. So if the stock price is currently trading above the open, that means you're green. If it's trading below, that means you're red. So depending on what direction, that will then allow you to see whether you have full time frame continuity to the upside or the downside, or if you have conflict. Now, when you have conflict, it's now a matter of, okay, where is the conflict happening? Is the conflict on a higher time frame? whereas you'd still be able to, kind of take advantage of the lower time frame, of the movements on the lower time frame, or is the the conflict happening to a time frame that's now threatening one of the other opens of the other time frames, whereas you will now be able to have not, two, let's say if you're looking at four different time frames, where now two may be going against you, right? So with the top down approach and you marking your opens, you will be able to identify where it is that you at and where it is that price is going. So now when you add a step further to that, is once you start seeing and marking the reversals, I mark them as reversals. So when I mark my high and my open, I just don't say, okay, the monthly high or the monthly low. I actually mark the reversals based off of the strat combinations, and the strat combinations. Sarah, the strat sniper, created a sheet that is extremely helpful that you should know, kind of, not kind of, you should know it, relatively well, and that will now help you to identify. So if you have a reversal, if you mark them as reversal and as continuations, and you see the different time frames lining up to where your target is actually reversal, that's how you can start building up to you starting a position on a smaller time frame that now goes into a bigger time frame and then triggers that reversal on another bigger time frame. And but in order for you to be able to see that, you need to use a top down approach, although when it happens, it happens from low to high. But when you're actually drawing them, you should start seeing them from the higher time frames going down.
Cool, cool. I like that. That thread to continuity is such a powerful thing to understand. Thank you.
Very welcome.
I have a question that's actually about multi-time frame analysis, and it's kind of a two-part question. So, like,
Okay.
since you're using multi-time frame analysis, using multiple time frames, when are you adding to your position based off time frame continuity, and when are you getting out of your position, like having your stop loss? Let's say if it starts to get into conflict, when does that arise?
For me, when I'm adding, so I have different, it depends on how I feel and what I see the market is doing. So I have different strategies for when I like to add. And recently I started adding at pivot points. So usually where I add is add a reversal. So if I'm entering on a day, but the target of the day, the first target is a reversal on, let's say, the 3 day, Papa, Sally. Sorry about that. So if I'm entering on a day and the target of the day, my first target on the day is a reversal on the 3 day, that's where I will now add to my position. So that's one thing. And then if that 3 day now, the first target of that 3 day is, let's say, a weekly reversal in the same direction that I'm looking to take, I will add at that point as well. Because to me, that means that we're picking up steam, and that the play, that the we're picking up even more steam, and that the play is more likely to continue in that direction, obviously without considering any TTOs. But TTOs are just something that you just have to deal with and have a look at them, right? So that's one of my first strategies that I use when adding. So I add reversals that are going in my favors. That's one where I add. Another where I like to add is at pivot points. I started using that one recently, especially because the market has been kind of hectic. So me using pivot points as areas where I'm able to add helps me not needing to wait until the next day to capitalize off of the movement that's been happening during the previous day or intraday. So that's number two. And then number three would be after an inside bar. So if I missed the move, or missed a significant move, I will wait for a TTO or an inside bar, and then I will add after the inside one bar candle as well. Um, and then where I'm likely to get out is it's still a bit iffy with me, especially because I like to swing and I'm trying to stay into trades. But what I mainly use for my exits and to determine if I want to exit or not are is the PSAR. So if I'm seeing that the PSAR started switching positions from, let's say, below the candle to the top of the candle, I will exit. Or if I go like 50% or 61, which is based off of the Fibonacci from wherever trade that I'm in. So if I entered on the daily, but my main play is kind of being able to capitalize off of a weekly. If I see if I get in on the first day and that reverses on me, I'm more likely to get out and then just wait, even if it is just a TTO, because that means I could probably get a better entry, right? Because if it's just this day and then the play goes against me, although I'm waiting to get in for the weekly, if it's a TTO, then I'd rather wait for the TTO to play out and get in. That will then give me a better entry than I had before. But let's say if I'm already in, then unless it goes above below my entry, I will quit it. I will cut it off. So I like to keep it simple and not too much. I don't consider myself as a diamond hand or anything. I like to just take my profits, in increments too, to kind of combat that, because it's much easier for you to hold through a TTO and not exit prematurely when, one, you've already taken profits, two, that you have an area where you would rather get out on or at, right? So that's kind of how so it's either getting out at, depending if I got in on that day and the play is going against me, I will get out. And then, or if I'm already in the trade and it's going against me, I will see where I am relatively to which time frame I wanted to trade on or utilize off of.
Wow, that was perfect. That is beautifully said. And I also know that you're a big fan of trading commons. Does your
Yes.
risk and strategies, do they differ from if you were to trade with options? Like, is it the same for both that you just mentioned, or it would be different?
So see, this is the thing, right? I was trading options before last year and I was successful at it too, but not consistently. And I would literally watch my plays, enter into the 100s before it was popular, by the way, because shout out to Ray. He was one of the first people that I know that started preaching to us that, okay, 30% is just not enough. You can find plays that are, going into above 30s or the hundreds even. You just have to make sure that you're looking at all these things that I've just mentioned. So I was doing that but then I would give it away. And then sometimes I would see the trade go against me, but then I would start talking to myself and be like, ain't no way this can go from 100 to 50. Then I see it reach 50 and I'm like, ain't no way this is going from 50 to 25, right? And then I would see it go to like 5% and I'm like, still like there's no way this can go to zero. So my so I had to quit. I stopped for a little bit and gathered myself together. And because it's mainly mental too, I feel like with options it's more mental than with common shares. Trading is a mental aspect anyway, just in general, right? But common shares gives me more peace of mind when I'm in the trade because I'm not dependent on the Greeks. I'm not dependent on volatility. I'm not depending on theta, right? I'm not dependent on, volume that much either. Um, so that gives me more peace of mind. And I'm able, if I have a few shares, whatever it is that wherever I'm getting out, that's exactly what I will lose. So I can kind of pre-calculate what that would look like to me in terms of, dollar amount or even percentages. But, unless you are able to manage your risk properly with options, you can see whatever you put up for that contract go in a blink of an eye. So with common shares and options, you need to, and futures too. I've started doing futures as of recent as well. What I've found now for myself is that I had to change my trading styles for all three different you know, stock market vehicles. So my trader profile, the way I've put it together for myself, with my risk and with my, you know, entry type, with my exit, with my everything, stop loss, break even, take profit, percentages or not percentages, um, is different than my futures personality or my futures trading style. Because I'm able to hold through a TTO with common shares very nicely. But if you do that with a futures account, you will get liquidated. Like they will kick you out, and it happened to me twice. So you know, so it depends on, you know, like how much money you have in there, and so. But in the essence is you cannot hold the same way you're holding common shares as you're holding options, as you're holding futures. So the main thing people have to understand is that you have to kind of tweak your profile to each different type. I have a higher risk tolerance for common shares. My risk tolerance for futures is lower than that, although it's still in between. But my options ones, and I've recently started getting back to options as well. And it's mainly because, you know, I've taken the position, quote unquote position, as an educator, and I don't like being a one trick pony. And although I know, you know, like how to teach options and etc., no one is going to believe you when you say, okay, I know how to do options, but I just don't play options myself because of whatever reason. Like they don't care about the reasons, right? So for me, even me, that's not something that I would, you know, listen to somebody for. So for me, in that sense, I wanted to get back into it slowly in my own time still, because I still do, you know, it's still my prerogative to do whatever I want to do, right? But still get into it where people are like, okay, you know, it's not just common shares with her. It's not just, you know, it's everything. Like she's all around, and I'm able to go with to her with everything. And I know that when she says something, she doesn't just mean it from one aspect. Although the fact that we are trading the strat, we are all seeing the same thing. So just an example, on Friday, I just hopped on the trading channel in AdexTrades group, in our group, and I said, look at snow, because there was a reversal on the 3 week, and there was also a big gap to fill, and I traded that as common shares because of, you know, I'm already in the option trade at the moment, and because I'm getting into it, I'm only, you know, taking it slowly, so I'm not trying to get into too much. But I took that as a options with common shares, and I was already in it, but I added to my position based off the fact that it hit that, you know, reversal, with the intention for it to fill that gap. And then I saw someone say, okay, thank you so much for learning snow. I took it as a options trade, and then they posted their screenshot. So with the strat, although we are not trading the same vehicle, so options or common shares, we all are seeing the same things, and we all are able to decide how we're going to execute on the fact that we are seeing these same things. So yes.
Wow, that was wonderfully said. And like the fact that you mentioned how you have a different trading mentality for the vehicle that you trade for futures, whether it's for common shares, whether it's for options. I want everyone to actually pay attention to that because frankly, everyone should be having a different mentality for the different vehicle they trade and for the type of option contract you're trading. For example, if you want to take a weekly contract or if you want to take a daily trigger, and let's say you want to
Mhm.
the weekly expiration, you would be thinking of that trade differently than if you were to take a monthly swing or something that triggers on the month. So I often say that like the type of trade that you're taking lets you know like what type of mentality you have to have. And that also goes the same way for like zero DTEs when it comes to Fridays, right? Instead of me trying to get into a position, or I should say add into a position, I'm just literally gonna take a small size, get a position, and be relatively out because of the fact that it is Friday 0 DTEs, and we know how the premiums fluctuate. So what does that mean? A price target that I would have for like maybe like a monthly swing, I would probably have a lower price target because of the fact that my percentages will probably be higher as it gets to that price target. So having a different mentality, I think it's very important, and I really just like how you mentioned that because I think the same way as well. If I'm trading futures,
Mhm.
definitely different from how if I'm going to be swinging options. So shout out to
Mhm. Yes. And with that also, no weekly contracts, please, people, if you're trading options. I've seen enough, I've observed enough, watched enough, because obviously I'm, when just because I decide not to do options doesn't mean that I stop learning. I've seen too many people get clapped and then complain. But why are you trading weekly options contract in such a climate where we have Powell and his friends speaking 3 times a week for no reason, apparent reason, but to just throw sand in whatever play that you have. So another rule in comparison to when I was doing options before is I'm starting from the 2 weeks out. So I'm starting to look at minimum 2 weeks out, and depending on the type of trade that I would like to continue, or the time frame I would like to continue in on. So even now I'm in my second option trade since I've started getting back to it. I'm in DAL, and I got that for next week's expiration, which kind of was like 2 weeks, right? But because there's a nice setup on the monthly, I'm already looking to roll that contract potentially. I've binge watched a lot of rolling contracts over the weekend because I thought it was like some kind of magic trick, but it actually is very simple. So I started rolling. I'm considering on, when Monday comes, so tomorrow, to actually roll that contract over into another expiration date so that I'm able to stay in that trade longer. So although I'm already in profit, I'm up now. I closed on 92%, and I got in on Thursday on DAL, right? On for 6th of April, and I got the 35 call contract. I closed at 92%. So Monday comes, if I want to, I can still get out. And because there's also a gap fill on DAL, and it hasn't closed that yet completely to I think it was a gap fill. But I can either decide to get out, or I can decide to roll that contract. But whichever way, because I planned my contract at least to minimum, I now have enough time to decide what I want to do. Do I want to take my profits and just start a new position with a new ticker, or do I want to even, capitalize off of it even further by just rolling it into something else?
Cool, cool. Hey, Angie, I got a two-part for you.
Yeah.
So, if not in consolidation, and the place we look for are continuations and reversals, personally speaking, which of the actionable signals are your favorite? And second question is, which of those do you commonly play?
I personally like the 3-2-2 reversals personally, and reason why is because of the range of the three candle. So that gives you like a great magnitude or great target area for you to go into, especially because I would like to swing trade the shares that I'm trading, or even with options, right? But that gives you like a larger magnitude, or even time frame, or possibility to have like a better profit. I also like the 1-2-2 ref strats, in whichever direction. I play both sides. So even if a trade goes against me, and I see it differently, compared to when I got in the trade, I will just flip. I will either take my little profits, or I will take a small loss and just flip, and then I'll be, back in the green like ASAP, right? So I play both sides, whichever way that I'm, going. So I don't have a problem with that. But 1-2-2, whichever side, 3-2-2 is my favorite. One, I like the one because, especially on days where I'm not like, I'm like a bit iffy on it. And then for me to see where it goes into, because a one, you can take it to either side, and you
Yep,
should be good wherever it breaks to.
right,
So,
right.
and then hammers too, hammers and shooters. So the actionable signals really, and then 3-2-2 and 1-2-2.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for giving us
Very
some game
welcome.
on that 3 bar because that is important.
Yes.
Angie, do you ever take trades that are out of full time frame continuity or that go against conflict? Like, for example, let's say you had a trade, like I'm looking at Amazon right now on the daily, right? Amazon full time
Mhm.
frame continuity to the upside, about to trigger two up in the month. Let's say it could possibly do that to Monday, but Amazon does have a couple of gap fills to the downside. Would you, since you talked about playing both sides, would you take if Amazon were to trigger a 2-2 rev on the day? Would you take that play to for potentially that gap fill play, or since it's going against time frame continuity, you would sit that one out?
I take anything. I kind of take anything, preferably with full time frame continuity. But if it's not in full time frame continuity, then I will start looking at, okay, where are we in relation to the broadening formation? And because sometimes we have now hit the bottom of a broadening formation, and although we still don't have full time frame continuity, with us hitting the broadening formation, whichever side, this could now potentially mean a reversal to take out the other, the other side of the other range, right? So to me, it really is subjective on where we are at that moment and where we are in relation to the broadening formation and what um, candle type it closed at. So a hammer off of a lower broadening formation with conflict on the time frames, I could still take that because it's a hammer, and hammers and shooters are powerful. We know that, right? And when you put them at at whichever broadening formation, either a shooter at the top or a hammer at the lower broadening formation, we know that this could very well mean that it will, have some type of full force to, take out the other side. So I do take if when there's conflict, me going against, like, if there's full time frame continuity, like completely to the other side, I hardly take those trades because it's like, why would I stress myself? Because when I'm looking at, first I look at the futures, what they're doing, then I look at the sectors and see what they're doing and how I would like to trade those, and then I then look for the tickers in that, in that sector or whatever. So in my opinion is, why would I stress myself trying to go against the grain when I can just be, willy nilly and happy freely in a trade that, has the power of the futures, it has the power of the sectors, backed by it. So yeah, I don't really trade when there's like full conflict and then to the other side. But if there's some conflict on the time frames, I will, depending on where we are and what I see the play could potentially start doing.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I want everyone to realize, like you mentioned the fact that like you're taking a trade, let's say if it was at the bottom of a Browning formation, but you do have conflict. Um, that is I personally like taking those trades too, trading back into the outside of time frame continuity. But would you recommend that trade for the beginner trader? The reason why I ask is because sometimes like I get feedback. Let's say if a beginner trader is who just started learning the strat, they want to take a trade that goes against time frame continuity, like the Amazon example. And so they'll take
Mm-hmm.
put, but then because of the fact that we know that based off the higher time frames, this could actually be a TTO to go back up, then all
Yeah.
of get that green bar. So would you recommend, and then I would say, like in hindsight, I would say, oh, you took a trade, you took a TTO, you should have traded in full time frame continuity, right? So
Mm-hmm.
inner trader, would you tell them like, oh, every triple trade that you should take should be in full time frame continuity, or you should try to take those reversals off of broadening formations, but know that it could be a slight risk because you know that we could get a TTO back down? What would you recommend?
For me, the type of kind of person I am in general, I will give you all the options and I will tell you exactly how I think about them and what I see about them. Because at the end of the day, we are grown adults. So I will tell you exactly what it is that I'm seeing. So I'll give you all the scenarios that could possibly either go in your favor or go not in your favor. So as for me, recommended a beginner trader to take a trade that's either in conflict or against a time frame continuity, I would say depending on the person and where they are in their journey, because you have different levels of beginners, you have different levels of intermediate, right? I would say no at first if they're just like recently, just starting out, fresh out the womb strata, just learn the reversals and the cheat sheet and etc. No, but if they want to do that, I would then explain, if you want to take it, you better make sure that you have your stop set tightly, and that way that if the trade goes against you, you can either get out with a small profit or you get out with a small loss. But at least you are now able to have, make mistakes on your own and understand why it happened and what you would do differently for yourself. Because for me, I like learning by burning myself. So so me explaining, giving people every option that there is, that they have available to them, will allow them to either decide whichever one fits their personality best. But it's like it's a type of thing that at least I didn't tell you that that wasn't possible, because I don't like people, educators like that try to push their ideas onto someone. Because in my opinion, that when you're telling someone or giving someone advice, you just have to allow, help them see different aspects, different perspectives, instead of trying to push them in one lane or another lane, in that sense. So no, if you're starting out, but I will tell you everything. So if you do decide to not take the no, at least you know what you could be doing and how you are able to manage it.
Angie, I know we've been talking the strat, but with the recent introduction to AdexTrades University and seeing your passion and creativity that you put into your work, and
Hmm.
I wanted to ask, what is your version of a positive classroom culture, and what would you like to see from new traders that attend the classroom sessions?
Um, One, do not get into a play where you don't know how you want to manage it. You don't know your entries, you don't know the exit, you don't know the target, you don't know your stop loss, you don't know where you want to add. None of those things. Do not get into those types of plays. That's number one. Number two is try to help as much as you can. Uh, but also allow the person to kind of explore the things on themselves, by themselves. Because what I've seen, or what I see so far, is people get really excited about the learning bit, but then they start asking a lot of questions, but they're not allowing those questions to kind of marinate, or they're not allowing the advice to like sizzle through, and then go back and then come back and see, okay, you explained this last time, but what do you think about this? And I went back and I did this and I saw this. So what do you think about this in relation to what you told me last time, right? Because if you keep asking questions continuously without going back and reassessing what you've been taught, you're not allowing yourself to process it and give yourself the time to actually see how that fits you or not. And then, so help each other wherever you can as much as possible. Don't get into trades you don't know nothing about. Because, you know, it's your money, right? And it's your responsibility. And it's, although we're not children anymore. That's number one. So it's not a thing of, although there are educators, yes, fine, and they will help you, yes, fine. But at the end of the day, you are a consenting adult, which should be responsible for all of their actions and whichever way, whatever it is that you want to do. So we need to, in my opinion, I would like to see more kind of maturity with towards trading as well. Because what I've seen is that people want to start trading, but then the mindset kind of switches to when we first started learning something in school, like when we were like 9, 10, 11, 12, where we are, oh, teacher, that kind of thing. But we kind of forget that we should need to process this by ourselves, because people cannot hold your hand the whole entire time, and especially like in a group or something like that. Yeah, people are willing to help you, but there's also limits, right? But in that sense, still allow people the room to also feel like you're open enough where they are able to come to you as well. That's also one of the things that I like to live by, myself, just in my regular life as well, to I will set boundaries and I will let you know, but I will also tell you, like, if there's anything that you need, just come and see me. So that's why when I say hope it helps, I really hope it helps. But the reason why I say hope it helps is because I know that I've given you everything that I know, and I've tried to explain it in different ways as much as I can. So now it's your turn to process it and then go back. So hope it helps and send you on your way, type of thing. So also patience too, because not everyone learns the same, not everyone processes information the same. But if you see someone genuinely trying and they're not negative, or they're not, oh, the market makers are out to get me, or um, so because we all learn differently, you need to have different levels of patience with people, and not every student or not every learner is going to fit your trading style or your personal teaching style or even your personality, right? But if you always manage to have what I said before, that kind of accessibility, or kind of feel or vibe that, okay, we may not be the same. You may find me, I may not learn the same way as you, but I know that I'm able to ask you questions and you will try to help me as to the best of your ability. So yeah, that's another one that I would like to add as well. And also just mind your business, because sometimes people just like to give advice or start saying things as, I see it in the Twitter spaces too, and I'm like, why are you saying that as an educator? Like, it's very demotivating to people that wanting to start out. And it's like, just keep quiet sometimes. To be honest, right? I'm It's like you did the same things when you started out. So why are you trying to kind of diminish or devalue someone who's now doing the same thing? And not in a way from a teaching aspect and say, okay, this is why you shouldn't be doing that because so and so and so. And I can tell you that from experience, but more from a higher throne. Oh, if you're still doing this, then, I don't like all that. So I try to mute that all out. So that's why I say one of the things I like to do is mind my business and just continue doing what I'm doing, really.
I love how you almost finished up what you were saying and then you paused for a second and then you just went in and said, and also mind your business. I love it, Angie.
Angie, are getting close to the hour. I do know it is getting late for you. I did want to take this opportunity, if it's okay with you, if any of the people in the audience wanted to come up and request to speak, if they had any questions to ask, if you were willing to answer them, will that be okay?
Yeah, I don't mind going on for longer either. It's just only 9 o'clock, and my little one is having term break. So however long you guys want it to last, I don't really mind. I have holiday from tomorrow, so no
Per
waking up early.
But okay, perfect. So I actually did have a question, and you did mention it. I think you mentioned it not only in a class, but you started to mention it in your channel. You have this I don't know if it's an indicator or you call it like a W waste my time ratio or something like that.
Yes.
Explain what that is because it's caught on to some people, it's definitely caught on to some members, and maybe if
Mhm.
you want to speak about it to the audience and get them interested as well.
Yeah, so the WMTR, short for waste my time ratio, is something that I came up with, and it only recently got that name. It was just a calculation that I used to do, that I've been doing for like years by hand, and it started off as, sometimes you ask somebody about a ticker and then they tell you, oh, the ATR, which is the average true range, which means like on average this stock moves so and so. And then you have like the underlying, which is either the EMA or the SMA, with the amount of candles that you would like to go back to, right? So that's the ATR. And then they would say, oh, but this stock doesn't move. Okay, but in relation to what? How do you know that? I know it's only 25 cents, or I know it's only 50 cents, but what does that tell me? Like, why do you feel like I shouldn't or should take this trade based off of the fact that it does or it doesn't move, right? So then I started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute. If you're telling me that the ATR that the stock doesn't move because of the ATR, then and you telling me that doesn't really tell me much. How am I able to kind of, have it tell me something in that with the same ATR? So I started playing around with it. I'm like, wait a minute. Then I caught on. I was like, okay, if I'm having um, a stock that is $5, but it moves $1 a day, as the ATR, I would rather have, for me to, and versus a stock that is $10, but that moves 50 cents a day on the ATR, which one would I rather go for, right? Would I want to go for the $5 that moves potentially $1, or the $10 that moves only 50 cents? Because if you look at it, if I have to put up $10 for just to get 50 cents back versus comparing to the $5, I can buy two $5 shares and then have the potential to gain $2, right? Versus that $1 that's only potentially going to give me 50 cents. So that's when I started getting to, it started getting to roll. And the formula is the stock price. So I like to use the close, the share stock price divided by the ATR on the daily. I've been using it on the daily, but I recently, because I did the class 2, 3 weeks ago and I mentioned it, and people were like, yeah, lady, this is cool and all, but what about the weekly? Because we are swingers. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't even get that far, right? But it looks at the stock price divided by the ATR, and that gives you a number. And that number is now going to, when you use that number compared to another stock in either the same sector or from your watch list, you are now able to categorize them. And the category for the WMTR is any number that's below 20. That one is a diamond. So that one will be put on my permanent watch list. For example, snow. It has a ATR below 20, right? And then you have between 20 and 30. So whatever the after comes after the equal sign of that formula, if it's between 20 and 30, that will be considered as a gold. It may not be on my permanent watch list, but it's still good to go, because diamonds are, kind of rare to come by, and it just depends on the stock and how it moves as well. So you don't want to write those off. Then between 30 and 40, you have the silver category. It's like, oh, the grass is greener. You can keep looking. Like, if you're really pressed, or if you really want to take this trade, fair enough. It's not that bad. But you should know that there are still silver and silver and gold. Gold and diamond category. And then anything above 40, you call in security, because you're about to waste your time, because that means that you have to put up more money to get less money back. So that's kind of how the waste my time ratio came about, because I'm a self-talker, so I talk to myself. And anytime I would see the stock or a stock come up with a WMTR above, like, higher, like 40 or plus, some even go as high as 75, I've seen, or 66. I'm like, this is wasting my time. So that's how the name waste my time ratio came about. And it ADR, ATR, DTR, WMTR. So it's essentially a tool that I feel like everyone should use to narrow down their watch list even further by having tickers that give you that you need less money for, but have a higher um, return on investment for. So that's what the WMTR is. And I'm currently working on an indicator for the WMTR, so people shouldn't have to do it by hand, as I've done for like three years now. And it's currently in beta testing. And Nagami7, who is a script writer on TradingView, and he's also in the group, he is helping me with it. So I'm really excited about that. And now I'm testing it out and see what else I could do with it. And it has saved me so much time. So do, keep an eye on whenever I'm, releasing that and making it available to the public. That it will save you time. I've, since I debuted it, I spoke about, I had a conversation with Adex, and I asked him, I was like, well, I have this idea, but I'm not sure. And I explained it to him. He said, do it. I was like, wait a minute. Yes. He said, yes. I didn't even get the time to like gather myself. He said, yeah, you should debut it like ASAP. So since then, like everything has kind of been moving fast, and people started asking me for like think or sims, think or swim script. Yes. I was like, okay, I'm just getting started with the trading view, but I love the enthusiasm, and people are actually seeing how they're able to adapt it to what they're looking at. And it works for common shares, and it works for options. It works for the sectors too. So it's not just for, like common shares only. Because let's say if you have a watch list of 10 tickers, but you are, for me, I don't like to watch more than five tickers, on a day, or yeah, 5 tickers a day. um, but if you have like a watch list, sometimes I have like a watch list of 15, 20 tickers, and I'm not able to, before I wasn't able to narrow it down. Now, by using the WMTR and those parameters, which are to be used as a guide, because it still works even if some numbers are outside of those parameters. So if, let's say, you compare one stock and that has a WMTR of 60, and then you compare it to another stock that has a WMTR of 75, comparing those two, you still want to go for the lower one of 60 compared to the 75, right? So the parameters are guides, but when I started using that, and actually implementing and living by it, I would easily be able to cut my 25, ticker chart list to maybe like 10 or even 7 on a good day. And then I know, okay, these are actually worth looking at, right? So me seeing people using it and being able to use it to, adapt it to their trading style, and the fact that it also works on sectors. Like right now, the best sector to trade based off of the WMTR is XLE, so energy. So if you are a one trick pony, which is completely fine, right? That's your prerogative. If you are a one trick pony and you say, okay, listen, I don't have time to be watching all these different tickers in these different sectors and create a watch list every Sunday, and then monitor those watch lists, and then monitor the tickers that are in those watch lists. Let me just pick one thing, and then, just do that continuously. The best sector that you could do that with right now is XLE. Most of the stocks in XLE are, they have a good diamond. Some of most, like, there's a lot with diamond category, so below 20. And then there's only one of them, which is KMI, that has a WMTR of 40. There are a good few diamond. There's a plenty of gold ones, and then there are a few silvers, and then there's, I think, just one, which is KMI. And I never like trading that one anyway, because earlier on I saw that that one didn't make sense. So it's pretty adaptable, and it to be honest, if I do say so myself, it's pretty cool. So yeah.
That's so dope. That's so dope. And I'm not gonna lie, ever since you talked or you mentioned the WMTR ratio, I've literally put it or try to use it for my trades. That's how I'm able to get into trades such as, instead of playing Disney, I'll be playing Google, or I'll play Google or Meta. Instead of playing Walmart, I'll play Costco.
Yeah.
Really, it's a really good tool, especially for those that don't, like, are asking the question, like, why am I stuck in this position? Why is it that Verizon is not moving so much? Well, that's
Yeah.
probably because the WMTR for Verizon is very high. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To move like that on a daily basis. So it's definitely
Yeah.
me in terms of like narrowing down my trades. If I have a watch list,
Hmm.
then I can actually say, okay, which one has the best WMTR ratios? Then I can say
Yeah.
my top 5 now based off the
Yeah.
WMTR. So
Definitely.
it's so cool, and I recommend
Yeah.
everyone to like learn it. It's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, thank you. And it's also a thing of, you as traders, you need to create like individuality. Although we're all trading the strat, it adapts to yourself, right? Even if I wasn't, because I was using it before I even learned about the strat, right? But even when I was looking at some of, like the call outs or some people throwing out some tickers, just like other people's watch lists or something. For example, I've never traded Apple, like in my life, right? Because Apple doesn't move. I would rather trade Amazon, or I would rather trade Coin, um, instead of Apple, because when I compare them to each other, it doesn't move. So with that being said, is that okay? Everybody's talking about Apple, Apple. Fair enough. You can go with your Apple. I'll go with my Coin, because Apple moves only like, I think, less than $2, but Coin moves like $6 on a day, and Coin is only like, I think now it's at 70. Let me see. Let me check actually. Just to be sure. Coin on the day. So Coin has an ATR of 6.96, and it has a WMTR of 9.71. Remember, anything below 20 is a diamond. So I don't know what this will be classified as. Maybe it's like cobalt or like, whatever, but it's even better than a diamond because it's in the 9, right? And Coin is closed at 67.57. But if I now go to Apple, which closed at 164.90, and it moves like $3.34. But that's the thing too, because a few weeks ago when I checked Apple, it did not move $3 a day, right? It moved like only $1 or something, almost two. So that's another thing too. It changes. So you have to keep in mind that what you calculate today is not the same calculation of tomorrow. But still, Apple has a WMTR at 164 price close, ATR 3.34, WMTR 49.31. So you mean to tell me I can only get $3 back potentially, but I have to put up 164.90 of my money for one share, whether I can buy two coin and get a potential of what, $12 at least back, right? So that also, in my opinion, creates some kind of, individuality where you're not following what everyone is doing. You're not, listening to what everyone is doing. So even if somebody tells you, oh, trade the first top 10 tickers in the sectors because of so and so and so, I'm like, nah, you do that. I'm not doing that. I'm doing something different, because if I analyze all the tickers in that sector, I can find some tickers that are not in the top 10, which will give me a way better return, that also have good setups, because essentially all the, most of the tickers in a sector should kind of move the same or have the same setup in some kind of aspect, some to the T, some almost there, some, some completely off, which is fine too. But you are able to still sift through those, right? So, okay, you look at your top 10, I'll look at my WMTR and pick out the best one that is worth my money. Because especially as a common shares, I have to make sure that my return on my money that I have to put up for that trade is, to the best of its ability. So me not needing to put up a lot just to get it back a little doesn't make sense to me.
Wonderfully said, man. I am loving this, Angie. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for being here. I appreciate it. We are coming to a close, but Angie, for the last question that I had for you, obviously we see your passion. I don't know if people know this, but one of the reasons why we actually came across each other was because of all the information, all the infographics that you shared on your Twitter. And when I look,
Mm-hmm.
like, man, you put out so much information, and it's like I feel like this should be seen on a mass scale. So the question that I ask for you is, why do you do what you do? What is your why? Why do you want to help people so much? Why is it that you make these infographics? It may not even be seen like for a lot of people, but you still are out there doing the things and helping people. Why do you do that?
Well, it kind of was a selfish reason, although it benefiting others as well. So, I hit 30 last year, the big 30. And I started really like, and I also am a mom, and I started getting into my groove, but I was still kind of feeling a bit lost. Like, because I like to do a lot of stuff and I'm personally good at a lot of stuff, that doesn't help me actually narrow down, because I would find myself also like starting up projects but never finishing them, or getting like bored too quickly or something, along those lines. And I would, was coming across some seminars, and they were saying, okay, what is your purpose? I'm like, well, that's a good question. What is my purpose, right? I'm like, I am a mom. I know what I'm capable of, but I have problem with executing and sticking to something because I get bored easily. And I think a lot of people say, okay, you need to find your purpose. You need to find your purpose. Yeah, all right, Einstein. Can you tell me how do I exactly do that? People don't give you that, how you do that. So I started thinking about, okay, if I'm able, whatever my purpose should be, it should be something that is, I believe in God, right? So I'm not a Christian. I am a spiritual believer in the power of God. So I started thinking, okay, if God created the earth, so he's the creator, he created the earth and he created creatures, which are animals, and he created then creatives, which are humans, and we are supposed to be in his image or his likeness. That means that we should find what we're good at creatively. I was like, okay, I've always been a creative type of person, even when I was smaller, and I used to get credit for them too. Like even people used to say, "Oh, you're so creative," and like projects, like they would leave everything up to me to put, like PowerPoints and stuff like that. So that was number one. Okay, you are creative. You are able to do a lot of stuff. Fair enough. And then the other thing was that, okay, what else are you good at? You are good at a lot of stuff, but what kind of is the root of those a lot of stuff good at, that you are? And then I stumbled upon teaching. I was like, okay, I went back again to when I was younger, and I always was able to teach people even when I was failing in school, which is very ironic. I would be failing in school, but I would still help other kids, other, classmates, explain to them what it was, and they would go on and pass, but although I was failing. So that was another revealing moment to me, and it was, okay, so your issue is more your mental, your issue is more trusting yourself, your issue is less, self-doubting yourself, your issue is to know that you know, but not only know that you know, also truly believe that you know, because knowing is just a brain type of thing, but believing is a spiritual and an inner, inner work type of thing, something that you need, like, probably to speak to the lady too. If you don't know who the lady is, you'll find out when you need to come across her, right? So that was another thing. So I revealed a lot of things in that kind of, search for myself again. And so, okay, I got creative and I got learning. All right, what have you been doing lately that you enjoy, that you pretty much do every day, and that you are, good at too? I was like, okay, trading. Then I was analyzing the market. I was like, I don't think anyone is like doing graphics like I'm doing. Like I'm thinking how I could do it. Because me, as soon as I get an idea, like my brain starts going like, all over the place. I start having ideas. I have to put things down on paper. I have thousands of notes and stuff like that. I was like, okay, I don't think anyone is, doing it the way I'm thinking I would want to do it. So let me just start. And on top of that, I'm an introvert by nature. So my social battery drains real quickly, especially like in person, which is why I love the fact that I'm kind of behind and in the comfort of my own home. With all of this is because I'm still able to be me, but, in all my essence. But, you probably won't even understand or even know that I am an introvert unless I tell you, right? Which you guys know now. But I was like, okay, how am I able to put this together? And you need to get out of your shell. Like, you cannot be an introvert and you cannot be struggling and say that you're an introvert. Like, pick a struggle, right? You cannot have it both ways. You cannot claim that you don't like doing this, you don't like interacting, you don't like socializing, but then there are areas or a lot of areas in your life where you should be able to improve on. So, okay, let me just start twittering, putting some tweets out. Then I started with the graphics, and then I started, giving better explanations. So that was the creative, the teaching, and everything started coming together. And then I only started doing this in October, and then I started picking up steam. I'm like, wait a minute, this is going real good. I was like, all right, let me keep at it. And then before you know, boom, I was approached. Boom, I was approached again. And now I'm an educator. So for me, me looking also at what the market wasn't giving, like FinTwit or whatever you want to call it, was came back to again me understanding that people learn differently, and I learn in all types of different ways. It depends on the subject. So sometimes I like to watch videos, sometimes I like to read about it, sometimes I like to, like look at graphics. So I was like, if I'm able to put this into, like everyone was doing YouTube videos, I was like, all right, I don't think I want to do YouTube videos just yet, because that would just be too much commitment from my own side with my personal things going on. I was like, okay, if I create graphics, I can just post my stuff and dip, right? I would just post it and just leave. Like no one would know, and it will be there forever. And I don't have to like edit or put out videos or create shorts and all that kind of stuff. Let me just stay in my lane, mind my business, and do whatever it is, my prerogative. So that's how I came across. I was like, people are learning this way with graphics, and they're able to see it, and then me explaining it on, in the post itself too, with like little descriptions and stuff. And that's how I'm able to contribute to the people that want to learn. And it's going well, so I'm really grateful for that. And I think the most rewarding thing about this all is that I didn't start off to say, oh, I want to be an educator, or I want to like be a influencer. I even don't like that word, or I want to gain followers. It wasn't nothing like that. It was just me trying to discover myself, doing the stuff that essentially God told me to do, but I've just been disobedient with it. And the fact that other people are now able to, they like it, they see it, they learn from it. So that's the most rewarding thing. The fact that although it may seem selfish or something, but it was like me being able to truly discover myself is now helping other people with their journey. So I think that's the most rewarding part of it. So if anyone that is struggling and that is dealing with self-doubt and that is dealing with chemical imbalances or life issues, whatever it is, I do want to, closing off, I do want people to really like think about what it is that you want to do and how you want to do it, and how you are able to create like a little space for yourself. And that's kind of what I've done, right? Like anyone that sees my graphic, like they will know exactly, oh, this is from Angie, because it doesn't look like everybody else's. It doesn't feel, it doesn't, just in general, like even the color scheme, it's not boring. It's like black and it's still, all that kind of stuff. So if you're struggling in any type of way, like really sit with yourself and really ask yourself questions and go through them. And I think we live in a society that moves so fast and applauds like surface level kind of interactions and facades, that people are not honest enough and not brave enough to sit with themselves and actually figure out what it is that they like and don't like, and actually act upon those things, right? So if that's someone like you, then just really do that, as much as you can, as soon as you can too. So that's what I would like anyone to take away.
Beautiful, beautiful, Angie, and I could not relate more than you right now because that's what ADEX provided for me, right? And I'd like to take a second and thank him for providing that medium for me to serve, to teach.
Yeah.
I'm an introvert as well, and so
Hmm.
I think it's a lot of people. A lot of people are in that place too. And in light of all
Yeah.
this Angie covered today, I would make an argument that the strat's a language, not a black and white strategy that's always going to work the same way for everybody, because
Yeah.
what works for her specifically may not work for you. So we have to journal these things and realize them for ourselves to have trust in our own personalized methodology, because
Hmm.
in strat we trust. And taking the
Yeah.
elements of the strat that work for you alongside the best trading book you could ever find, and that is by your doing, man. To have peace in mind, knowing that there's a piece of literature out there that could change
Hmm.
your trading journey. The very thing you're writing down every day, one day becomes the one thing nobody else could connect with or could even give a crap about yet. It's so powerful in your hand. So thank you, Angie. Thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
journey with us at Strat Talk, episode 17.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
And thank you so much, Angie. Thank you so much to my speakers of the panel, Leon, Alex. I appreciate you guys being co-hosts of this panel. That will be the conclusion of episode 17 of the Strat Talk. Thank you, Angie, for taking the time out of your day to speak with us. This was an amazing conversation. How can audience members reach out, or do you have any last words you'd like to say? Tell the people what you have going on.
So I'm on Twitter, mainly on Twitter, as AXG Prerogative. It's because Twitter doesn't allow longer names, but it's Angie's Prerogative, really. I have a website that I'm currently working on, to build it out a little bit more and add some little stuff that I have, some little projects that are still trying to keep me, in the creative space, while I'm trying to settle in with my new commitments. um, so look out for that. Also, I'll be releasing the WMTR ratio, which includes a lot of other indicators that I use that I feel like, as a beginner, if you just use only these ones with the strat, you'll be good and actually learn them. So that will be available soon as well. I'm also working on a trading plan, which is something that I would like to release like very, very soon, like in the next week or so. I'm kind of even running behind. Um, Also, I've been inspired to take one-on-one sessions, so I'm building that out on my website too. Um, like this is all going like quite fast, and I'm really appreciative and for like ADEX too, and special shout out to Cyberdog Jermaine. He's been like, kind of, not kind of, he's been my strat friend through all of this, and we bounce ideas off of each other, and we reinforce each other. So it's like he's become like my, my daily confidant or something like that, my accountability partner with regards to this. And I asked him feedback on, stuff that I like to do, even me becoming a teacher. So special shout out to him, and obviously ADEX too. I'm really grateful to you. And also special shout out to Mama Sita, which is XYZ LMNOP, Khadijah. She was one of the first to actually invite me to come to her group and teach my WMTR, because she was like, "Yeah, I need to get you in my group." So that was really dope from her as well. So I have those things going on. So one-on-one sessions will be available too for anyone that needs them or feels like they like the way I teach. And yeah, I just thank you guys all for being and supporting and coming out, and whichever support, where you've been showing support, like retweeting, liking, whatever it is. And just continue what you're doing, and don't forget, keep minding your business.
Pretty gonna be too busy for me. I love. Congrats on all your recent success, Angie. The more power to you, and you're gonna do a phenomenal job. And I can't wait to hear and see all the things you have coming in store for us for the following year.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you to my fellow co-hosts of the panel, Leon and Alex. Make sure to give them a follow as well. Thank you to
Yes.
audience. We appreciate you all for joining and listening into our 17th episode of the Strat Talk. Like I said, we're back. We're going to be having more episodes, so we appreciate you all coming out. Of course, we do have this space recorded, and I'll make sure to send you guys a link after it's done. For those of you that are interested in joining our Discord and learning about the Strat, feel free to click the link in our bio. Good luck this week to everyone trading, and have a great rest of your Sunday. I will see you all later. Bye now, everyone.